What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to episode 2 of Broke to Millionaire. For those of y'all that didn't watch the first episode, this is basically just going to be a series covering my journey from being what I consider financially broke until I make my first $1 million. The one thing that I'm going to be focusing on throughout this entire process is basically just my journey from being completely unprofitable to being profitable. And when I use the terms profitable and unprofitable, I'm really talking about passing a prop firm funded account and then eventually getting a payout from it. Obviously, the first payout is just the first step on this long road that I have ahead of me, but I'm really just trying to dwindle it down and focus on what my next actual step is rather than being so caught up and focused on the big picture. With a vision as large as the one that I have in my head, I really feel like that's the only way that I'll be able to approach the situation and actually be able to feel like I'm accomplishing something along the way. I'll be honest, I really did not follow my rules when it came to the past 2 days of trading. I think in my mind, I was really just trying to speed up the process. And when I take a look back at all the times that I was so close to being funded, or that one time that I actually did get funded, the one thing that ended up messing my entire progress was just trying to speed up the process when truly the only way that I was able to even get there was by being patient. With that being said, though, I am going to show y'all exactly what I did these past 2 days, and it is 11:56 right now. London is about to open in 4 minutes, so I am also going to be covering what I'm looking at right now and go from there. So as y'all can see from the charts that I have laid out in front of me, I really just tried to take a bunch of positions this last week and then also this week, which in all reality didn't have as much confirmation as I maybe thought they did in the moment. As you can see on Friday, actually Thursday night, I was able to take a nice short, which ended up hitting my. It didn't actually hit my TP, but I ended up taking profit early because I didn't want to lose the profits that I had gained, which is maybe controversial to what my rules are, but it is a smart approach as far as securing funds. Even though the sell ended up going for a long ways after that, that still just wasn't 100% confirmed in my head, so it didn't make sense to hold that position the entire time, especially after seeing this rejection from truly no zone. But just seeing this push up had me feeling a little funky, so I got out. And then later that day, or later that next day, I ended up trying to take buys again from what I'm assuming is this zone here, which is probably a 4 hour demand from what I can tell. But it really wasn't a valid trade. I mean, I have this trend line marked up here, which is just a high time frame trend line, and none of it was necessarily a real point on liquidity that I would have wanted to look at to take out. This zone was so far away that I almost think it should have been irrelevant looking back at it now. In the moment, I may have seen some rejection, but it didn't actually do anything, and I'm sure it didn't actually give me the confirmation that I needed to take my trade. So these three positions on Friday were super stupid, had no real confirmation, and I should have just not taken them. Fast forwarding to this week, on Tuesday, I took this buy position here. Not really sure what I was looking at. I think I was maybe looking at this leg up here after we had created this first leg up. And with this, I would have anticipated that price maybe would have held at this level and then tried to make its way up, which as you can see it actually eventually did, and that's when I retook the position. So this was Tuesday London session, and I ended up getting wicked out down here, but once we had the push up in the morning, then I marked up this zone and realized that we were still within this demand that I had originally marked up. With this inducement and this push up and with this retracement down to this initial inducement zone, that's where I felt like the buy was actually valid. So as you can see, I did end up entering off that, and it did end up going pretty well for a little while until eventually it just didn't. I was floating somewhere around 2% profit at this point, and looking back at it, I definitely should have just taken profit. Obviously, I was targeting this Asia high right here, and overall looking at this 4 hour supply, which would have made sense from a technical standpoint, but things don't always go the way that you think they will, especially in trading and especially when trading Forex. I think Forex is very commonly known to be the market that's the most sporadic, the most wild. NQ and the S&P people say is still pretty crazy, but I just have no experience with that, so no idea. But yeah, anyway, this buy would have put my account in a good position to where I would have only been down 2% before hitting break even, which is a good place in my mind right now. But as you can tell, I did not take profit and I ended up actually getting stopped out and took the loss. So that was very unfortunate. And I think I actually re entered at some point here this morning. And I was really just floating in barely any profit, had an okay position, but obviously eventually ended up getting swept down. No real zone to take it from, so it didn't really make any sense. If we switch pairs though over to GBP USD, I was actually looking for a buy earlier this week as well. As you can see, this was actually last week. It would have been a nice buy, but price action just was not in my favor, which is okay. But as you can see, my bias was right. I think it looked a lot cleaner on EU. For those of y'all that don't know, EU and GU are actually what you could call sister pairs. So they move fairly cohesively, but they don't always move the same. And because they don't move the same all the time, things like this end up happening where it'll be a nice move on one pair, but on the other pair, it won't be as nice, even if the bias is relatively correct. In this trade, actually, last week, I was also floating probably somewhere around 2% in profit, and that would have actually had my account at break even. And from there, I wouldn't have been so impulsive to try and catch this buy in multiple positions. And with that, I more than likely probably would have been in a better position this week, so where I didn't have to take so many impulsive buys. And looking back at it now, with this CAD buy and then this GU buy, I maybe would have been sitting 3% in profit. That's obviously very optimistic because there was bound to be losses in the way anyway. But anyway, let's move on. For tonight's session, I am looking at GU right now, or GBP USD. There is this supply that I had marked up from a while ago. I'm not rich enough to have that premium yet. We had a nice inducement of this trendline liquidity right here on the 4-hour time frame, and then we had a strong push down. This is a strong point where sellers actually entered the market, so that to me signals a little bit that this could be a point where sellers may want to re-enter the market until we reach another valid point to end up taking a buy and pushing price higher. I don't know that I would 100% consider this a valid supply, even though we are following the bearish chain of structure. But if we take a look at EU, yeah, we already broke that corresponding pair or that corresponding zone. So in theory, I would want to be seeing a high time frame buy, but because we are holding this level on GU, and if we're really going down to the basics, we have also taken out what you could consider relative equal highs. This could potentially be a sell for the night and maybe for the morning until we reach this 4-hour demand. Normally, I wouldn't consider this a valid demand because there is an Asia zone sitting right below it. But because this is a nice 4-hour leg up after an inducement, as you can see by these wicks here, there is a good chance that that will be a zone that we respect. And if you kind of take a look at it, there is some sort of correspondence as far as this strong 4-hour leg up. So I could potentially see price maybe taking a dip down just until we reach this zone, and then we will potentially have a high to break GU's high here so that these pairs end up matching back up. Though if we really are looking at the highest time frame on both of these pairs, we are bearish, we are going down, even though we did break this point in structure, which is the most recent high of the swing. That would technically indicate that we are going bullish, but it kind of all depends on whether or not GU is also going to want to break past this point. If it does, then I think we'll be looking for these two pairs to start pushing up on the higher time frame. But for now, I am expecting a fairly bearish reaction from these pairs. Now with the overall analysis done, we're going to go down to the lower time frame and start seeing if we see anything that we like. this is actually something that we really like. As you can see right here, we have Asia highs or a session high that just got swept right at the start of London. And if we go down to the 1 minute time frame, we are seeing a nice strong leg down, which did actually break past this most recent low. And now doing that, this is now looking like a fairly solid reason to take a sell. Obviously, I'm waiting for some more confirmation. For me, what that confirmation would be breaking past this, and then even more so confirmation is if we break past this. But because this low is so much lower, there's a good chance that if by the point that we break this, price will have already probably shot down the way that we expected it to. Because we are sitting in a high time frame zone, that does also mean that price can go wherever it wants to. It may not even be from this point, but with this sweep right at the start of London and all of this session liquidity being taken out, that is a fairly solid indication to me that we could be selling. And as you can see on the corresponding pair, we actually took out the exact same draw on liquidity. Even though we're not necessarily in a zone on this pair, we are on the other pair, which is a good sign that if we have the right confirmation, we may be able to take a sell. With that inducement, we did get a nice break of structure on the lower time frame. And if we want to count this, technically we also got a second breakdown, which makes it look a little nicer. And truth be told, with that, y'all are about to see how sporadic I am with my entries. All right, I'm actually in on this because this looks to be fairly nice with that leg being created on the opposite pair. Now, is this premature? Absolutely. I don't think that I should have entered without having this breakdown here, but I am kind of anticipating that we will have that break, and if things go the way that I anticipate they will, we will potentially have a nice push down. With the way price is looking right now, if we actually end up giving the confirmation on this pair and following and not stopping me out, there's a good chance that we may have a nice push down until this demand, or if we look at the other pair, this demand is also what I am looking at. There is, however, a good chance that price will have a strong reaction after sweeping this Asia session low, but it all depends on how good of bearish price action we actually get after we have the push down. Now I am in here. Things are looking, I can't really say yet, but I will update you guys whenever something happens. I think this is going to be my position for the night. There's probably nothing else that I would want to take. I'm not the best at trading gold. Gold just kind of looks like a bunch of rubbish to me right now. Actually, this kind of looks nice. There's a good chance that because of this leg up on the 30-minute, we may have a nice sweep and push. Though this strategy doesn't always work when it comes to trading gold, so I mainly stick to the general forex pairs that I have listed over here, which are EU, GU, JPY, and CAD. Things are looking not great right now, and I'm actually realizing that I did not set a stop loss, so I will be doing that now. And stops are now set. Okay, well, that's my analysis for the night. I'm just gonna let it ride, and then I'll update you guys when something happens. Thank you for watching. Y'all are wondering what we're eating while watching this trade. It's a nice plate of some steak, some sweet potato fries, and some sugar-free barbecue sauce. Y'all want the recipe? Let me know. With how rushed this entry was, this is actually a really good segue into something that I at least wanted to touch on, and that is that in many ways, whether you want to believe it or not, you will and you can be your very worst enemy. There's so many times along a self development journey that you know exactly what you should be doing to get to where you want to be, but for some reason, you just can't find it in yourself to follow those steps and to do what you know you should be doing. Obviously, this is much easier said than done, but at the very least, by acknowledging this fact, there is a much, much better chance that you'll be able to break through your barriers and actually elevate to that level that you want to achieve. It's a very situational feeling, but I strongly encourage anybody who's watching this to take a really good look deep within and see in what ways you are holding yourself back. At the moment, I'm setting a very clear example of this by just throwing money into the market without all the confirmations that my plan does actually require. All right. As y'all could see, got stopped out, entered another position, no confirmation, got stopped out again. That is tough. But with that, I'm calling it for the night. Unless I see something nice here. Yeah, no, I'm gonna just get out of here. All right. Well, was a tough one. Not gonna lie, tough sitch. But it is what it is. I did it to myself. Please use me as an example. Do not do exactly what I just did. Make sure that if you have a plan, you are following that plan and you are following it step by step to reach exactly where you want to be. There's a reason why the plan became a plan in the first place, and that's all the more reason to follow it. As you can probably tell by now, these are a lot of lessons that I'm just kind of verbally saying out loud so that I also follow them at the end of the day. With that being said, I appreciate y'all for watching this episode. It's obviously not the greatest start to the series, but with every stumble, there is an opportunity for me to get back up and get moving. So I will take it and run. Obviously, got to learn from the mistakes and I got to do better next time. So I'll catch y'all on the next one. Take care.